Well, we are back following the final international break of the EFL Championship season, and it's match day 39 on Good Friday. We've got a bumper weekend of action with a full fixture list at both the start and the end of the Easter weekend. So hopefully you're looking forward to all of that. As always, we're going to preview and predict all 12 games for Friday, and I'll encourage you to do exactly the same down in the comments below. If you beat or match my score, you will get a shout out in the next recap, which will be on Saturday ahead of Monday's full fixture list. But for now, before we go and look ahead to match day 39 with big games at the bottom, top and in the playoff race, we've got to have a look back at match day 38, where in 10 games, I managed to do all right. But for most of us, it was a story of perfect scores. Most of us wiped out by 3-0 nils, unheard of in a championship, and a rare weekend with no championship's favourite scoreline of 1-1. Despite that, I did pick up 9 points, 2 perfect scores for West Brom's 2-0 win at home to Bristol City and Preston's 1-0 win at Plymouth, 3 correct outcomes for Swansea, Ipswich and Leeds United, who all won their home games as I predicted. In the comments though, let's have a look at how you guys got on, because 2 of you beat my score and 2 of you matched it. So first of all, a shout out to Brian and Mitchell, 2 of our regulars who picked up 9 points apiece. Mitchell, perfect scores in both of the last 2 games to level with me. But then we've got the 2 big guns in double figures. Now, you both get a shout out for different reasons here. Swifty finished on 12 points with 3 perfect scores, the most of anyone this weekend, which is an incredible effort from 10 games. And Tony, also back in form with 12 points. Only 1 perfect score, but that means in the 10 games, you got every single outcome right, which is a very rare feat, so you deserve some credit for that. Matchday 38, joint won by Swifty and Tony. And now we move on to Good Friday and Matchday 39. A full fixture list after the FA Cup action affected a couple of games last time out. You could argue those games being put back, certainly the one at the top, has definitely made things a bit tastier when it comes to the title race. And that's where we're going to start with the early kickoff, because it is Bristol City versus second place Leicester. The first time that the Foxes have been off the top of the table since God knows when. It's been a long old time. They lost 4-2 at Chelsea in the FA Cup, although they had a good fight back from 2-0 down where they were really struggling in the first half. But if we look at Bristol City, it's the usual service. A decent win against Swansea and a comprehensive defeat at West Brom. Just so inconsistent. The season's petering out. It's doing what Bristol City seasons do. Delivering inconsistency, delivering average results and being impossible to predict. That is the Bristol City way. I will say they played okay against West Brom. It was actually a fairly even game from the highlights I saw. Both listed as having one clear-cut chance, similar shots and possession. So I guess the only difficulty for Bristol City is not making the most of set pieces, which they created plenty of in that game. But it doesn't change the fact that their season has been pretty poor. But this is what gets me, because they can produce a performance against the top sides. We saw what they did at home to Southampton to end their long unbeaten run at the time. They gave Ipswich a great game on the road and were actually on top until they made a tactical error with a sub. So I do wonder whether they can shock Leicester here. I just feel for Leicester it's becoming must win. Of course, there's that new pressure off the pitch with the failed charges from the Premier League season. They're obviously projected to fail the Championship sustainability rules this year. So if they don't go up, there's going to be a disaster next season. However, just think they'll have enough in this game. I know Bristol City can give anyone a good game, and it's the sort of game where I'd expect them to produce a performance, but I'm going to go for Leicester by that start of the season favourite score and to win it at Bristol City by 2-1. Let's move on to the second early kickoff, this time at 1 p.m. in London between Millwall and West Bromwich Albion. Millwall ended their unbeaten start under Neil Harris with a 2-0 defeat at Leeds United, who, let's be fair, there's no real disgrace in that. Leeds are a good side. They did cause a few problems on the break, Millwall, but Leeds deserved to win and probably could have scored 1 or 2 more. For West Brom, we mentioned that really good win against Bristol City. They're keeping the unbeaten run going. They're picking up points on the road and then winning their home games comfortably. I mean, they've just had a really good season. Carlos Corberán has delivered. They'll be in the playoffs, I'm pretty sure. But this game's going to be trickier on paper than it looks. We know how Millwall are going to set up now. It's about getting points on the board. They've managed to get themselves 4 points clear with those 3 wins in 4 under Harris at the start. Are they going to be able to back it up? Because the home games we've seen under Harris so far were against Watford and Birmingham, who, with the greatest of respect, aren't two of the best attacking teams in the league. West Brom have got a little bit more about them. They've scored nearly 60 goals. They're meaner in defence. I really want to go for a West Brom win, but I'm not going to. I'm going to stick it out early doors. The Championship's favourite scoreline. We're not going to have 2 match days in a row without one. I'm going for one apiece between Millwall and West Brom. On to the 3 p.m. kickoffs. We start in South Wales with Cardiff City versus Sunderland. Yet another disappointing derby day for Cardiff, beaten 2-0 at Swansea. And to be fair, it was a pretty comfortable performance. I mean, Swansea had enough clear-cut chances. If you watch the game, they should have scored 4 or 5, honestly. Cardiff they don't get going in that fixture. I know they won the one earlier in the season, but that's 5 defeats in 6 in that game now. But they did win 4 in a row before that to put themselves in the top half. And you feel if they want to make the playoffs, this is a must-win. And they're coming up against a Sunderland team that, yes, stopped the rot with a 0-0 draw at home to QPR. It ended the run of defeats, but it was not a good performance. No shots on target. QPR didn't look like the side at the bottom. They were the better of the two. They just look uninspired at the moment. For all that attacking talent in a team, Sunderland have lost their way. And ever since Mowbray left the club, really, it has gone awry a little bit. So the end of the season can't come soon enough. They need to get the next managerial appointment right. But for this game, I have no idea what to go for. Sunderland don't really look like scoring. That Southampton game was the only one in their last 4 they've netted. Cardiff don't concede many and are usually very solid at home. So do you know what? I'm going to go for Cardiff to nick it ugly. I'm going to go for a 1-0 home win. I just don't see where the Sunderland result comes from, albeit they'll have to be won eventually. As we move on to another game that's big in both the relegation and the playoff battle, it is Huddersfield Town versus Coventry City. Coventry with just a stunning FA Cup win at Wolves. It was an absolutely brilliant game to watch. And I know a lot of the headlines were taken the next day by United Liverpool. But for me, that was the best game of the weekend. It was an absolute joy to watch. It was a great cup tie. They looked like they'd thrown it away somehow. But the two big boys, Wright and Sims, finally delivering, replacing those Gyökeres goals. I tell you what, they're looking like they're keeping the momentum going. An FA Cup semi-final round the corner. Back-to-back championship wins before it as well. And for Huddersfield, well, maybe we've got our indicator here. Coventry won 5-0 against Rotherham a couple of weeks ago. And Huddersfield drew 0-0 away at Rotherham, albeit with 10 men for the last half an hour. And albeit having dominated the game prior to that. They just haven't quite got the same goal threat. And I think that's going to be the difference here. You can actually see it being a fairly even game. Huddersfield are trying to press a bit more under their new manager, but I think with Coventry, that's going to be dangerous. They're great on the counter. They've got quality in behind, and I think they're going to win this one. At Coventry, to continue their playoff push, I'm going for them to win at Huddersfield by 3-1. As we move on to another game in the playoff and relegation race, it is Hull City versus Stoke City. Hull make it 6 unbeaten, but with 4 draws in a row. They drew 2 at home to Leicester 3 weeks ago. Did not have a game the weekend before the international break because of the FA Cup ties. However, they got a good point against Leicester the week before that. And they've had a good break now, which is really important for teams in the Championship, considering how many games have been played over that sort of winter period. I'm sure a few weeks off won't have harmed them too much. Stoke, a couple of good performances in recent weeks, but it came crashing back down at home to Norwich, didn't it? 2 down after half an hour, only managed 1 shot on target in the whole game. And Norwich well and truly played them off the park, let's be honest. They deserved the win, they got the victory. And for Stoke, it's back to the drawing board because they're still only 2 points clear. Ironically, their away performance at Preston the week before was pretty decent. And I wonder if that's going to be the hallmark of how they survive, because it has been a bit easier for them on the road where they've not had the pressure of the home support. The Middlesbrough game probably the only exception to that. I really don't know what to go here because everything would tell you to go for a whole draw, but they've drawn 4 in a row and Stoke have gone loss, win, loss, win, loss. You don't know where to go with it. I'm going to go for Hull to win. As I've mentioned before and received a bit of criticism for saying, they've not produced unbelievable displays some of the time, but they're doing enough to stay in that mix. They're doing a really good job under Liam Rossini. And I'm going to go again for an ugly home win, not for many goals this weekend, and for 1-0 Hull City in a cagey game, but Hull City won't care if they win it. Let's move on to the side that Stoke City lost to last time out. It is Norwich City versus Plymouth Argyle. Another one that's big in both the playoff and the relegation race. Norwich over their last 2 league games, an 8-0 aggregate victory, albeit against 2 of the bottom 6. But Plymouth are 7th bottom and have a worse defensive record than Stoke City, who Norwich beat last time. Plymouth lost 1-0 at home to Preston, one of our perfect scores for that game. Was sort of predictable, wasn't it? But the main problem I have so far under Foster is that Plymouth have lost all of their attacking threat. Now, we know they had to make themselves a bit more solid, and particularly away from home. But at home, they have lost almost all of their goal-scoring threat and almost all of their attacking threat, which has got to be a real concern. It's 4 without a victory. They've only scored 1 goal in that time away at Blackburn, who have a very leaky defence. And with Norwich free-flowing at the moment and not conceding many themselves, take out that Borough game with 10 men. When they've had 11 on the pitch, they've only conceded 2 in their last 5.5 games. So I think this is going to be a tough afternoon for Plymouth. They'll set up a bit more cautiously. They've done so on the road at times. I know they got that win at Borough, but I just don't see it happening here. I think Norwich win this comprehensively. I won't go quite as many. I'm going to go by 2-0 at Carrow Road. Another one that on paper should be a bit of a home banker is Preston North End versus Rotherham United. Rotherham did stop the rot by picking up a point at home to Huddersfield, but they're gone. Yes, nice not to concede 5 goals for once, but they can't win a game. They can't score a goal. 4 without a goal, including home games against the other 2 sides in the relegation zone. It's been a pitiful effort in the last couple of months. Preston, it was important they got the win. A big one away at Plymouth. Better side, deserved to win it. And of course, were extremely solid defensively. 3 clean sheets in the last 4. Bounced back from that Stoke performance, which wasn't great. And they're doing enough to stay in the mix, which I've said it before is a really decent effort with the squad they've got. So I think for this one, you have to go with a home win. Rotherham have been shipping goals for fun on the road. 5 at Norwich, 5 at Coventry. I'm not sure Preston are quite that good going forward, but I do think if given a chance, they'll be ruthless. And I'm going to go for a really comprehensive win. Preston North End 3, Rotherham United 0. As we move on to a big game between 20th and 21st, and one of these could end the weekend in a relegation zone depending on other results. It is QPR versus Birmingham City. QPR picked up a point at Sunderland where they were the better side, but again, just no goal threat, no ruthless edge. They're not taking chances, 2 blanks in a row, and after a few better performances and results, they're getting dragged back in just 1 point away. Whereas for Birmingham, it is a return for Gary Rowett, who is in on an 8-game deal while Tony Mowbray takes the rest of the season to recuperate. Mark Venus steps away, didn't look too comfortable in that number 1 position. And while Birmingham haven't been conceding many goals in their last 4, just 1 conceded in each of them, it is a really important spell for them and they've got to find a way to score. This is the sort of game they should target because if they can take advantage, whether it be from a set-piece counter-attacks, they'll be back in it. I mean, they had 26 shots against Watford, but they didn't really create a huge number of chances. A couple that they should have scored from. Only 4 on target from that is pretty pitiful and didn't make the most of set pieces again. So I do feel for Birmingham. It's not a million miles away. They're being coached well. They look a decent side. But Gary Rowett will just motivate them, shore them up, and I'm sure he'll get them out of trouble. For this game, I was really tempted to go for a Birmingham win. There's still part of me that thinks they're going to nick it 2-1. But I've locked in and downloaded the slide now, so I'm not allowed to change it. I'm going to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline again of 1-1. But the more I look at it, the more I think Birmingham might nick it. As we move on to the team that will be looking to overhaul the 2 we've just mentioned, Sheffield Wednesday host Swansea City. Sheffield Wednesday have had a very good recovery under Danny Roll. But the last 2 games, they played 2 of the top 3, and my God, they have been taken apart. After a 2-0 defeat at home to Leeds, they lost 6-0 last time out away at Ipswich. They ran out of steam. They sort of gave up towards the end, but it's again not a game that's going to define their season. Has ruined the goal difference slightly, so they're not going to stay up on that. But they've just got to get points. For Swansea, a really good win at home to Cardiff, a great performance in the derby, but again, how inconsistent are they? It followed a 1-0 defeat at Bristol City, a draw at Watford, and then a couple of narrow wins before that. They are starting to look better under Luke Williams, or at least show a style and an identity. But I'm not sure they're fully there yet, and I think they will need the summer to adjust. But this game, I mean, Swansea are virtually safe. I'd say 1 more result, they're probably there. They're 7 clear of the relegation zone. Although I say that, if Sheffield Wednesday win this, they're 5 behind them. Maybe I'm being too generous there. I think they'll be fine. They've got a better run in after getting through all the awful games. They've got to pick up a few results. And for this one, I just feel there's got to be a response from Sheffield Wednesday. There's got to be a victory in this game. You look at what's remaining for them and getting out of trouble, and this has got to be a match where they're targeting 3 points. And based on that, when they've done it generally in recent months, they've managed to pick them victories up under Danny Roll. The 1-0 against Plymouth, 1-0 at Rotherham, 2-1 at home to Bristol City. I'm going to go for it again. I'm going to go for Sheffield Wednesday to win. I'm not going to go 1-0 this time. I'm going to go by 2-1. I think Swansea will get caught playing out from the back. I think Sheffield Wednesday will hit them. Just about, I'm going to go for the home win, just because it's so much more important to them. The final 3 p.m. kickoff is another big one, featuring a side at the top. It is Southampton versus Middlesbrough. Southampton with a couple of thrillers prior to the break, which ended a little poor run and a blip for them. 4-3 away at Birmingham and then 4-2 at home to Sunderland. Of course, the Leicester game was postponed after that. However, Middlesbrough, a stark contrast to that, struggled for goals at times this season, and after a 1-0 and 2-0 win, they were frustrated 0-0 at home to Blackburn in a game where they could have got themselves right back in that playoff mix. As it is, again, struggling to hit the target from chances, just not got that firepower they had last year. The rest of the team's pretty much there, but that's what they're missing. So we go here for either a free-flowing and free-scoring Southampton team to score goals, or a very tidy and sturdy Middlesbrough team to keep it low-scoring. We saw what they did at Leicester, who weren't in the greatest of form at the time. We saw what they did against 10 with Norwich. They've generally been better against the bigger sides, but they've produced some really poor displays in there as well. They've not scored that many goals. I'm going to go for a Southampton win. I mean, Southampton have got the most interesting run in, haven't they? They've still got Leicester to play. They've got Leeds on the final day. I mean, if they can take it to the final 3 matches, it's virtually in their hands. So I'm going to go for them to not slip up, to find their form again. Because of the games in hand, they've got to get points on the board because they're starting to slip away from that battle now. And I'm going to go for them to do so. Southampton to win by 3-1, and a big rest to have done, well, a lot of good things for Russell Martin's side, who play with a lot of intensity. As we move on to the 2 late kickoffs, which feature games that are involving the title race, it is Blackburn Rovers versus Ipswich Town. Ipswich, well, a big way to bounce back at home to Sheffield Wednesday. A huge 6-0 win and starting to catch that goal difference. It gives them an advantage on that front over Southampton. Within 10 of Leicester now, it could yet be crucial. We don't know. After that disappointing result at Cardiff, though, a really important 3 points. And you've got to be fair as well. Ipswich have come up from League One. They're playing 3 incredibly strong teams at the top there. They're 1 point off the top after 38 games. It's an incredible effort. They're great to watch. And they're playing against a Blackburn side who, under John Eustace, have become very much the opposite. He's just about grinding out results, which at the moment, to be fair to him, they're 3 points clear of the relegation zone. They've drawn 5 of their last 6, if you include the cup tie that went to extra time. But 4 out of 5 in the Championship. Struggling to create as many chances. The goals are starting to dry up, albeit Sammy Schmodix is still being fairly ruthless with a few chances he's getting, having scored the goal against Plymouth, Millwall and Newcastle. I just feel that this is going to be a very close game because Ipswich on the road have not been quite as fluent as we've seen in their home matches this year. The Cardiff game was a little bit of an eye-opener. They didn't have that solid finish that we associate with them. However, against the bottom teams like Plymouth the time before that, we have generally seen them find a way to grind out a result. I was tempted to go 1-1 because most Blackburn games do finish that way now. I'm going to go for Ipswich to find a way. I want this title race to be brilliant. As a result, I'm going for Ipswich Town by 2-1. As we move on to the final game of the evening, which is Tom Cleverley's Watford against Leeds United. Leeds are the irresistible force at the moment. The long unbeaten run continues with a 2-0 win at home to Millwall. A good performance, polished, not absolutely brilliant to watch, but they created enough. They should have scored 1 or 2 more. And you know what? They're just finding a way. Clean sheets galore. Daniel Farke is timing his run well. And as I predicted pre-season, Leeds United are now top of the table. I got a lot of stick mid-season for not having Leicester to win it, but I think Leeds are going to do it now. They've got to avoid a slip-up here, though, against a Watford side that, under Tom Cleverley, picked up a big win at Birmingham City. Wasn't a vintage performance, and Birmingham had enough chances to win 3 or 4 games. Didn't really do enough with it in the end. They were a bit more resilient. They defended set pieces a bit better. And they obviously produced that big moment, taking advantage of an error to win it. So you've got to give them credit. They've picked up the 3 points, and that should see them safe for the year now on 48. But I don't think they're stopping Leeds United. I think they're going to be the leaders now. They're going to run away with it. I don't even think the final game against Southampton will end up being important for them. I'm going to go for them to win this one at Vicarage Road by 2-0 on Friday night. So with that out of the way, let's have a quick recap of what we've gone for Matchday 39. Back from the international break, and crucially, I've gone for all of the top 4 to win. Everyone's keeping pace this week in my books. The race for the playoffs, though, a little bit more interesting. I've gone fairly low scoring in a few of the games, and for 2 Championship's favourite scorelines. And at the bottom of the table, a big Sheffield Wednesday win, which if it comes off and is predicted right, will put them outside the relegation zone when we come to our prediction show on Saturday. But those are just my score predictions for Matchday 39. Do you agree or disagree with them? Let me know in the comments below and give me your score predictions for this weekend's action. If you beat or match my score, you'll get a shout out in the recap on Saturday as we look ahead to another full fixture list on Easter Monday. It's a big old finish to the championship season now. We've got loads of prediction shows to come. So if you want to make sure you don't miss a thing and you did enjoy this one, please do put a thumbs up and subscribe and turn that notification bell on. We'll be back tomorrow to look ahead to the Premier League action this weekend, including a trip to Spurs for Luton Town. In addition to that, I'm going to be at a few neutral EFL games and non-league games over the next couple of weeks, so keep your eyes peeled for a few clips from them. But thank you very much for watching and supporting as always, and getting your comments and predictions in your numbers. I really do appreciate it. It's been great fun this year. I hope you continue to enjoy it as we go through the last 6 weeks or so of the season. It's a big weekend. Enjoy the Good Friday football. I'll see you back here tomorrow for our weekend Premier League predictions.